and welcome to today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green,
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
and we are joined today by Phyllis Richardson. Phyllis Richardson is joining us, and she has,
That's
yay,
right.
to properly greet you. She
Mhm.
has a plethora of political experience. Currently, she serves as as a legislative administrative manager for the Georgia
Mhm.
General Assembly.
Yes.
She's been a policy and engagement manager at Common Cause Georgia. You've been all around Georgia. Governmental Affairs Director for the Georgia Wand Education Fund, a program associate for the Women's Action for New Directions, and a municipal city clerk. And
Yes,
Hello.
I understand you also have some Florida background too.
I do. First of all, I want to say hello to both
Hello.
Karen and Kat. Thank you so much for having me on. I am so thrilled and so excited. And then I want to say hello to all of your followers, your guests, your podcast enthusiasts. And so I'm
Mhm.
just so grateful to be here and thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being on the set with us, girl. This has been a long time waiting because your
Yes,
schedule is busy.
yes.
So with all of this experience, what can we do? That all experience that you have, what can we do in 2024 as voters to get folks motivated to come out and vote?
So the thing I would tell people most is just get engaged. Just start. We always try to make these plans on how we're going to do things, where we're going to start, the process. And my advice to you or suggestion is
Mhm.
just get up, go to a, a local organization that's doing work in the community and engagement, reach out to your elected officials to say, hey, how can I plug in? How can I get involved? Go to your other orgs, and there's so many. I could just go down the list of organizations you could
Mhm.
Mhm.
participate in. But even if you don't know that, and if you're an African American, just start with your NAACP, you know,
Mhm.
but you have to start. You just have to go and say, hey, I'm here to volunteer. And trust me, people will put you to work because there's so much
Yes.
to be done. I remember when I call her Kat. Sometimes I call her Catherine. But when Kat started her journey in the political world, she was already doing the work. She
Mhm.
just took the work that she was doing in the community and tied
Mhm.
it into saying, I want to be a public servant.
Yes.
Yes.
That's, you don't have to go all the way to public servant, but you do have to serve your community.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there are so many ways to do it. And I'm thinking about also, you mentioned NAACP, but and also a lot of our churches,
Yes.
and a lot of our churches are active year round, not just
Mhm.
during
Mhm.
campaign season, but year round for voter registration. They don't tell you which candidate to vote for.
No.
They,
Correct.
but they will do voter registration, and that is, in Georgia, we don't have you don't sign up for a party. Like in Florida, when you register to vote, you register for a party or you register as
Oh
Correct.
independent.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Mhm. Georgia doesn't have that system. So nonprofits are registering folks all the time. So I know, like at my church at New Bethel AME in Lithonia, our social action
Woo-woo.
committee, yes,
Right.
our social action committee every Sunday is out registering folks to vote, and also um, telling people how to check their voter registration to make sure that they are currently registered. Because if you have not voted in a couple of cycles, your name may be purged. So go to mvp.sos.ga.gov if you are in Georgia to check
Right.
your voter registration. And if you're in another state, check your
Mhm.
Secretary of State's website.
And Karen, I'm so glad you said that because it is so important. And just about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, our Secretary of State, Rathenberg, was removed from the role himself. And so it is
Wow.
so important that you check your status. And I encourage people to check it, weekly. Just make it a thing. You're sitting there
Mhm.
watching TV. It takes but a
Mhm.
second. You don't need a lot of information. You just really need to know who you are, your
Mm-hmm.
date of birth, and the county you live in. It takes a
Mhm.
few seconds, and it's so important that you take that time to look all the way up until at least 30 days before the
Yeah.
election so that you're not removed and you have an opportunity to vote.
And for you to drop that fact that our own Secretary of State for the state of Georgia, his own record was removed. That's scary. So, and my pastor, Pastor Kevin Lee, PK, while we dropping names, um, he was talking about that, and we had folks out this past Sunday to get folks to register, and he specifically said, make sure you check your voter registration because people are being dropped off the roll and they don't even know
Purging
it.
is what
Yeah,
they call
Purging.
it. Purging.
Thank
purging
you.
is what they
Thank
call
you.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Purging.
not only that, and I'm sorry I didn't share it with you all
Mhm.
earlier, but
Mhm.
there are also some changes that are happening at the state level
Oh,
that I
please do share.
Please dish.
Please, girl, keep
Please
our people
dish.
up to
that
date.
I
Drop
will
the
make
tea. Drop
sure
the
to
tea.
get the information to you so that you can share with your voters. But there is a plea out there to call our governor's office, um, Carr's office, and another office to encourage them to stop trying to change the way our election boards can conduct or handle the elections. And so there is a huge push for that to make changes. And I am going to just read what was in the newspaper. If you give me 1 second where I can make it big
Mhm.
enough for myself. And
Too
so the
big.
AJC reported, and I'll get that link to you. It says Kemp, Burns, and Attorney General Chris Carr each have an obligation to defend state law, state elections, and democracy, and it's up to Georgia voters to remind them of their duty to do so before the votes are being conducted in the system most vulnerable
Citizen.
to disruption. I think I may have read that wrong, but they're
Mhm.
trying to make some changes. But the law says one thing, and so Governor Kemp has the power to make
Mhm.
sure that it stays according to the law.
Mhm.
But he is
Mhm.
putting it over in the hands of our general attorney, Chris Carr, to make that decision. And so I'll make sure to get this information to you all so that you can share with your voters and your constituents and your podcasters on the next call. And I'm so sorry I didn't get that to you
No, and
earlier.
No,
that's
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 fine.
why.
We could put. Go ahead, Karen. Wait, let me ask this though. Can you explain just to the listeners why this is important? Like I heard you read that from the AJC, which is a reputable source, which we believe in making sure we have stats and put down the truth over here. But why is it important for citizens to write their governor as it pertains to this piece of legislation?
So election boards, they are the individuals who determine the statute and processing votes and carrying out the election and the rules for elections. And
Mm-hmm.
so if they make those changes, it affects how when votes are being tallied and who can sit on those boards. So when there is a objection to something, if that board is not um, have individuals who has the best interest of all citizens, then things
Mm-hmm.
can be changed. And so we don't want to encounter what we did in the last presidential election where people were
Mm-hmm.
looking for votes, where people were complaining about all the ballots were not count and we need to do these recounts and we don't like these machines and it should be different machines. And so all of that is done through your election
Yeah.
boards.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Okay.
and and what I do want to add to that is that, as Phyllis was stating, that recently there are 2 or 3 Trump supporters who are now on the state elections board, and they've changed the rules for how elections can be certified.
Mhm.
And these 3 people want to gum up the system.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done is they've changed the rules, as Phyllis was indicating, they've changed the rules on how the elections can be certified by the counties. Because each county runs their own county
Child.
elections. And so
Mm-hmm.
now anyone who makes a challenge to the election on that night, that day, the county official cannot certify their votes until they have heard that challenge. So imagine we've got 59 counties in Georgia.
59 counties.
59 counties in Georgia. If in each of those counties someone says, I'm challenging the way that these votes were done, and that holds up that county from certifying their tally,
Mm-hmm.
that's really going to gum up the system. So all they're doing is trying to cause chaos and just cause chaos. Because if you keep the election in limbo, then that makes more people think that it's not valid.
Right.
And so also they're eating their own because 2 Republicans have filed challenges to this election board. So there's a lawsuit right now that's going to be heard within the next few days about these rules that they have enacted.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and these are GOPs who this
Right.
is this is, Republican officials who filed this lawsuit against this board, because this
Mm-hmm.
board is not elected by they're not
Right.
elected by the citizens, but yet they want to challenge how we vote and how the vote is counted. So folks need to just, if you have not been tuned in, you need to tune in, because this is important.
And Karen, on top of that, can I share a number with your listeners that if
Absolutely.
when they go vote, they run
Hmm.
into a problem, there is a voter protection hotline that
Okay.
people can call, and that number is 888-730-5816. Again, that's 888-730-5816,
All
because we
right.
want to make sure when people go vote that they have the ability to do so, that they're not turned away. And so while you're still inside the voting um, office and you come into an issue or a problem, do not leave. Just go over to the corner somewhere, pull out your phone and call that number. Explain to those attorneys that are donating their time what your
Mm-hmm.
issue or problem is, and they will direct you. Because what we do not want is people not voting.
That's
Another thing I would like to add to that, it broke my heart. Early voting, I know we do everything we can to get to that destination
hmm
before the hours close on early voting. If you get in line
stay in
before
line.
that hour strike, that's right.
Yes.
You stay in line. Do not let anyone turn you away. Don't get out of line. Call your family to bring you water and chips, but do
Yep.
not get out of line. Well, can we do that? I know last time when I did that, he had on the books that we'll go to jail for giving people water. I can't remember, but
You
y'all
know
know what I'm
what?
talking about.
I'll take that charge.
Facts.
I'll
And
take the
so, because
charge.
I was charging people phones and going to Kroger, going
Yeah.
back, taking them stuff, girl. I was like, if y'all don't
Yes.
start, you got to early vote, mail in. But please make a plan, take a friend, and call a buddy. And when you do it, go have brunch and celebrate. Take a picture,
Yes.
do
Yes.
all y'all social media stuff, hashtag Karen and Kat voted today, something. And
Yeah.
let's just have a party with it, because I can't wait to participate with the church that's marching to the board of elections. So that's going to be totally awesome. And just getting a bunch of people to do that, because a lot of folks need rides. Also, where can people call? Do you know, Phyllis, if they need a
I
ride?
do. I have the number, but it would take me a moment to scroll through my phone, so I don't want to
Mhm.
do that. But I will tell you the organization. The
Mhm,
organization is called the People's Agenda. It is run by Helen Butler. They are
mhm,
offering Rise to the Poll,
mhm,
and I have a hotline for that, but I don't want to
mhm.
be so
Don't worry,
rude.
girl. My co-host is an attorney. She got that screen of honey. She'll find it for you. Don't worry
Okay,
about look.
thank you. But
We
why
about some
she is
business around here. We try to get people to the polls.
Yes. And while she's looking for that, what I want to say is, and you have to check each county that you live in, what their election board says about early voting and the hours. And I'll just give you an example. What the state has on their website about timing. And so we want to make sure people are voting within the time frame and they've made a plan, because on the website of the Secretary of State, this is what it
Mm-hmm.
says as it relates to our two Saturdays, early Saturday that you can vote early, which is October the 19th and 26th. Those are the Saturdays. But the
Mm-hmm.
very first day of early voting is October the 15th. But when it comes to October the 7th, I'm sorry, October the 19th and 26th, it says the mandatory Saturday voting for November general election is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but no
Wow.
longer than 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so we don't want people showing up at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
location is not open, and then they get discouraged and leave, not realizing that that particular location may be a location that opens at 9 a.m. So
Mm.
check your times before you go. Maybe 1 or 2 days before October the 15th, ride by the location that you plan to vote at. Make sure they are still a early voting site, and if not, then you have an opportunity to find out where you can go and vote early. And so we
Yeah.
want to make sure people are doing that. And then as early as September the 23rd, you can go to your election register's office and get a sample ballot. I
Mm.
encourage people, get those ballots, start getting familiar with the names
Mhm.
that are on the ballot. And whatever you do, please make sure you vote up and down the ballot. Let's
Yes.
Amen.
stop at the
Amen.
top, but let's go all the way through, because we have great candidates, you know, that appear on those ballots. They have questions that are related to the county that you live in, and you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to vote on every single thing that's on that ballot.
I want
Absolutely.
to ask you a question about your personal life, but I want my sister to read that screen so for our listeners that don't have video to get
If,
that information.
if you are a Georgia voter in need of a ride to the polls, please call 1-877-524-8683 or visit ride to the poll.com, not POLE. So again,
Not that poll.
yeah, 877-524-8683 or visit ridetothepoll.com. And that is brought to you by the peoplesagenda.org.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Now, Phyllis, you've been in this game for a minute, and we do so much work in the community. I want two questions. Tell people, who is Phyllis Richardson? Who are you? Like, what is your why to get you up and be in this space? Because it is not easy. And God, I know you're a woman of God because God has seen you through a lot.
Yes,
But
he has.
what makes you keep going, girl?
What makes me keep going is several things. First of all, my father and husband, as well as you, Kat, have served in the military. My husband was drafted, so he didn't have a choice to go.
Mm,
He went
Mm-hmm.
to Vietnam in 66, 67,
Mm-hmm.
70, and 71. But
mm,
Wow.
more importantly, when I wake up in the morning, regardless of what I have, first of all, I'm thankful to God. But the
Amen.
second is, whatever I desire, I should have the right to have it. I have
yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's different things I have to do to obtain it. I may
Right.
have to work a few more hours, or I may have to take a long drive to get to that place, but I should have the right to do it. And so many of us do not have our rights, or we don't realize the rights that we have. And so I work hard in the community because I want people, one, to know what they're entitled to know who to call when they have problems regarding issues that they need help in getting it resolved. And we are our brother's keeper. And
Yes,
so
we
for
are.
those who don't know what to do, it is upon us. Kat mentioned, I am very strong in my faith. And the thing that God said for us to do is to be servants. And you cannot be a servant sitting at home doing nothing. And we all have different tasks. We all can do different things. So don't think you have to be that person who runs for office. You could just be the one that get the forms together and put them together. So when people go canvassing, they have the right information. Or you could be the one on the phone just calling and saying, hey, thank you so much for voting. Thank you so much for participating. And so we all have a
Look,
role
wait,
to
let me
play
cut you
in our
off.
democracy. Yes.
Look, wait. Or they could be the person, girl, to help you with your signs.
Yes, so that is a very loving, heartful joke between Kat and I. What happened? I met Kat at a event one time, and she gave me her spiel, why she was running and what she wanted to do, and she sent me her information. And Lord, she sent me. It was a beautiful sign. But she sent me a handmade sign that she made for a yard sign. And I said, what is this for? And she told me that was her yard sign. I said, no, that would not work. She had it printed somewhere. It was beautiful, but it was not what she needed based on the information she was telling me she
Bless
was
her
doing
heart.
and how she was working in the community. I said, no, sister girl, I can't have you going out like this. We're going to get you together.
Girl, it was the
You had to
funniest thing,
fix her
Karen.
slip.
Yes.
Yes, she had to fix my slip, girl, because my sign was big enough like an index card, and it was sitting in the yard, girl. Like, who gonna see that? What does that say? You need a magnifying glass. It was funny.
But I love the fact that she was willing. And
Yes.
that's what we all need to be. I have consulted on over 12 campaigns, but I didn't start out with the goal of, hey, I want to work on campaigns. I was working a job. This gentleman came by. He was running for office. He came into the office, gave his little spiel, because in South Florida you can do these things. Here you can't do that. But he came in, gave his spiel, and one of my coworkers said, "Oh, let's go and volunteer. That sounds like fun." Well, we agreed to, and the day that we were supposed to go, she backed out. But I'm the person, if I give you my word, I'm going to do
I'm
something.
coming. I'm showing
Unless
up.
I just get so sick that I can't, I'm going to be there. And that was the beginning of my change, because I saw what it meant for people who were struggling and didn't know how to get out of the struggle. They didn't know that, hey, my house is falling apart, but there's companies and organizations that will help you get your house fixed. If you're elderly and you're just having problems getting from point A to point B, all of that are services that either our local government or our state government or federal government is supposed to give us. But if you don't know how to access that, you go without. And it is up to us in the community to help one another.
Amen. Amen,
Absolutely.
sister.
Absolutely.
We could talk to you all day. Tell everybody, one, what church you go to, and two, what do you do to take care of your mental well-being with all of the things that you do? Because I know people like to sling mud in politics, but what do you do to keep your mental space and have that balance? And shout out to your church.
Yes. So shout out to my pastor, Pastor Elijah Collins Jr. And I attend New Jerusalem Baptist Church. And at the church, I am the political action ministry leader.
Okay.
And just like you, Karen, we do voter registration. We hold candidate forums. We have meet the candidates. But this coming October the 19th, which is the first Saturday early voting, I've learned through permits, we are walking from the church to the Gwinnett County Board of Registers office to cast our votes. We are asking all the D9s, We are asking faith leaders and their congregants. We are asking organizations, anybody who lives in the community, come join us on October the 19th at 11 a.m. and walk with us and show people that we are not going back.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Do you have a flyer
Yes.
for that? You can.
I will get that to you. It
Okay.
is being created.
Okay.
We had to make sure we, covered
Dot our I's and cross
permits
our
and
T's.
and with the police department and all of that. And so now we are moving forward. And
Nice.
so what keeps me mentally or grounded is the fact that I can't give up. I have 2 living sons, I have a grandson, I have a niece and a nephew. And if we stop, then who will take care of the next generation? I am so grateful to all of those who lost their lives, unfortunately, just to give me and everybody else in this country, no matter how you feel or how you think, the right to vote. I
Yep.
think about the women's suffrage, what they went through, just so that we have a voice at the table. And so that is how I, pull myself back together, because for those of you who don't know, I was the first African-American city clerk of Snellville, and they locked me out for 6 months. But I showed up every day for work, and every day they said, you don't have a job. But I wasn't worried about that, because had I given up, they would have won.
Yeah.
So I showed up every single day, fully dressed, ready to work. And they didn't want me, but that was okay too. But I say, don't give up. We may not live to see the changes that we're fighting for, but our generations will. And so we cannot give up.
And this was in the 2000s when that happened, right?
Yes, this was 2014. So yes.
10 years ago.
10 years
At the same time you became the first Black city clerk, we also received our first female mayor, correct?
Correct. Well, she was already mayor before I came in, but yes, for the city of Snellville. And so we mustn't forget that, and we mustn't forget how far we've come. I remember there was a time in Snellville they didn't want apartments, and look at the beautiful apartments right in the city of Snellville. So one thing my husband said, and sometimes you hear people say things and it doesn't resonate to you right there, but he said, change will happen. Not that we think it's going to happen. Change will happen. Change must happen. Everything changes.
Absolutely. Nothing stays the same. Absolutely nothing. Besides death.
That's the way God made it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's forever.
Yes.
Well, Ms. Richardson, thank you so much, and for dropping these nuggets. We look forward to hearing more about and posting about the upcoming walk to the polls so that folks can go vote in October for early voting. So definitely, keep us posted on that so that we can share that information with our viewers and our listeners. And as always, we thank you for joining us on today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat,
where we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.